Who is the photographer?
Yeah. When we were getting close to being done with the manuscript, we started trying to figure out who to publish the book. And we went to 2 or 3 different publishers that we were aware of, that we thought highly of. And then there was one person I wanted very much to edit the manuscript. And he had been, the person I wanted to edit it had been the editor of the Sayusla News in Florence and was currently publishing the phone book. And so I went to him and told him, or Dick and I both went to him, and we said, we'd like you to edit this book. No matter who we have publish it, we'd like you to do the editing. And he said, well, I'm considering going into the publishing books business, and I'd like to throw my hat in the ring and have you consider me to publish it. So we considered his offer along with about 3 others, and we went with him. And because of that, he took the picture on the cover, plus about 25 photos that are inside whenever he felt he wanted to fill up some space that we would not have gotten if we'd gone with any other publisher.
Exactly.
And so we've become sort of a team of 3 that with a big passion for this book. And I think it sells because of his photos, and if it hadn't been for Dick's wonderful research, I had to do more research, but I would not have ever done it without his research and him bugging me to do it. So
it looks to me like there was the 3 hearts in one.
Yes.
Putting
so there
together.
was a team of 3 that have put, and then of course Bob Serra, who is our publisher, and his company is called Pacific Publishing. He said that he put in twice as much time as he thought he would put in.
It's a lot of work to publish a book.
It is.
It's just
it is.
Amazing.
So, and then as he started laying it out, because with all the photos, you didn't just flow the text. We had to lay it out with all those photos and illustrations. So I became the editor and checked everything as he did each chapter. And so we worked as a team on that part. And then I procured all the photos, or most, except for what he took, from museums and from ODOT and from some personal people in town who had grown up with the bridge and had photos from their parents when they worked on it and so on. So I had access to their photos too.
It helps. There's the historical part of it.
And then I had all these contacts through the magazine with all the different museums, so I was able to get the museum photos easily too.
What part did crossings play in the bridge's anniversary celebrations?
Very good question. Our goal in getting this book out in 2011 and early in 2011 was so that we could be a part of all of the bridge's 75th anniversary celebrations. And of the 5 major bridges, only 4 of them are still standing. One of them is not standing anymore. But the new Alsea Bay Bridge turned 20 last year. So there were 5 bridge celebrations, the 4 original plus the new one that had 20 years. And in April, after the book came out, April 1st, I called each of the towns to see what they were doing and let them know that I was interested in being a part of it. And the Rhododendron Days that Florence has every year in May. Okay, they decided to have the one last year the theme be spanning the years, celebrating the 75th anniversary of the Sayusla River Bridge. And Dick and I were involved in helping plan that, and we were a part of all the different activities that were held.
How exciting.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. And then a few weeks later, I was part of I do a PowerPoint presentation that lasts about 35 minutes and uses about 35 or so photos from the book. And I did that presentation for all of the bridges celebrations, and it was just wonderful. There were 2 that were really exciting. The Yaquina Bay Bridge took a whole month celebrating their bridge. And I was able to speak at the chamber. I was able to give a presentation at Hatfield Marine Science Center. and I was a part of a panel discussion just about the Conde B Bridge, and then they had this fabulous parade across the bridge where there was the Coast Guard and the high school band, and approximately 1,000 people, followed by pre-1936 old cars, and then followed by, I think it was called the Newport Roller Babes. The one that meant the most to me was the Umpqua River Bridge, because their bridge had not had any kind of celebration or dedication. And nobody knew that until they read my book. Because when I was trying to find some research on that, nobody seemed to know. Right. And I had to read through 3.5 years of newspapers to write this paragraph. The Umpqua River Bridge, which is a beautiful bridge. Beautiful
smooth.
Bridge.
Yeah.
Okay, the dedication had been originally planned for June 19th and then moved to July 4th, but only a couple of weeks before it was postponed. The reasons included the Chamber of Commerce having a very full agenda, it was getting too late to get a prominent speaker, enough housing for a large crowd would be difficult to find, and whatever they did would look like child's play compared to the gala celebration of only a few weeks earlier for the Coos Bay Bridge, reported the Courier. And this would be the Port Umpqua Courier. When rumor reached Reedsport that President Roosevelt would be on the Pacific coast in September, however, the Chamber sent a letter inviting the President to speak at their bridge dedication. Wow. It wasn't long before Mayor E.H. Ford received a response from Stephen Early, Assistant Secretary to the President. The White House had received the letter, the Courier reported. Apparently, West Coast travel plans had not been made yet, but they would keep the letter in mind when they were. So the dedication was postponed indefinitely. And it never was held until September 8th, this last year,
Wow.
when I was invited to speak and give my presentation, and then Diane Novak at the Discovery Center there decided to make it a little bigger deal. And so the mayor spoke, the county commissioner, Susan Morgan, spoke, and our senator from that area, Suzanne Verger, also spoke. And then they had a big cake in the shape of the bridge that was cut. And then everybody got to come in and see my PowerPoint presentation. And before I started it, I read this paragraph, and it said, so the dedication was postponed indefinitely. And then I looked up and said, until today.
Yeah.
And so we had a wonderful presentation, but it wouldn't have happened without the book. And before all the speakers spoke at the Discovery Center there, a bunch of us walked up on the bridge. ODOT closed traffic, opened the bridge, and Susan Morgan, the county commissioner, and some of the ambassadors from the chamber had a ribbon that they cut, mock ribbon cutting. And then they closed the bridge, and there were about 15 or 20 pre-1936 cars come across. We had a fabulous birthday celebration as well as a really proper dedication, with everybody under the sun having a chance to
like being born.
Have their say.
It was finally born. The
finally,
bridge.
yeah.
Beautiful.
So every Friday I do a blog, and on that week I started the blog off. The bridge was finished on April 7th, 1936. The bridge was opened July 2nd, 1936. The bridge was dedicated September 8th, 2011. Wow. Then the next paragraph is just a few words, and it says, the story, and here's the story behind that 75-year lag.
Yeah, that's very, very
so
good.
That was the one that meant the most to me.
So your book came out last April 1st, and 500 copies were sold in 2 months. And I believe that in the last 10 months you have sold 1,400 books.
Total.
What do you attribute your success to?
Well, a couple of things. I think the cover sells itself. I think if people look at the cover, the words have nothing to do with it. They look at the cover, they look at the pictures, they read the back, and they'll say, oh yeah, I'll take one. And of course, I wrote everything. You know, you realize it's humbling to realize that it's nothing to do with what's the words. Everything else is what sells it. But it's it's the cover, it's the pictures, it's the fact that people are fascinated by the lighthouses and the bridges on the coast. And this gives them a little bit of the coast to take with them. And people who aren't on the coast, people who come to visit the coast, okay, people who live there want it, but people who visit the coast want something to take with them. And then there are a lot of people out there who just like bridges, what I call those hardcore bridge aficionados.
Bridge lovers.
They just really like bridges.
So what are some of your most successful avenues at promoting crossings?
Bookstores.
Bookstores.
Museums, because it's a history of the bridges, and libraries.
And the name of your website or your blog?
My blog is crossingsauthor.wordpress.com.
Good. And you can be contacted for presentations, book signings, interviews, discounted books, or any other information they can get it directly from you, correct?
That's right.
So what do you have that you could share with our viewers out there in the land of bridges?
Okay.
Or to authors that are starting to write some books that are maybe a little bit quite unique? Do you have any advice for them?
Well, I guess the part that was the most surprising to me is when I was writing the book, I kept focusing on getting to the end of that chapter, getting to the end of that section, and finally getting the end of the book. I remember thinking, I'm done. But you're not. Getting a book written is only half of it. The other half is getting it out there. And a year ago at this time, actually a year ago in February, we were still trying to decide whether to print 200 or 300 copies. And we finally decided to become really audacious and go for 500 copies. 2 months later, we printed 1,000 copies. And we've only got less than 100 of those left, and now we have, a week ago, sent off our third printing for 1,000 more. So what my advice would be is think big.
Exactly.
And be prepared to promote your book in any way you can, whether it's on TV or through a blog or through going to bookstores in your area. Now for me, and find out what niche your book fills.
Your niche, very important. Like you were here on the way to this show, and you did not just drive here from Florence and come here.
No.
What did you do on the way here?
I decided to spend the night, and so I left early yesterday, and I was on the phone last week making plans, and I stopped at 2 bookstores in Corvallis, 1 bookstore in McMinnville, the library in Wilsonville, and I met with the gal that runs the Friends of the Oregon City Library used bookstore yesterday about 5, and sold her some books for the bookstore there.
Is that incredible?
And then after today, I will I will see the gal at the Oregon City Library. Then I will go to Lake Oswego to a bookstore, and then I'll cross the Selwood Bridge. And then I will go to Milwaukee Library and the Gladstone Library, and then head home.
And if you're not prepared to do something like that, right? If any author out there just thinks they're going to just write a book and then don't have to do anything, it's not true.
Yeah.
Okay? You want to...
now, I'm not on Amazon or have a distributor yet, but we probably will go that route. Because I've been doing this a lot this last year. We've sold just total about a little over 1,400 now.
Congratulations! This is awesome.
It is, but it's also the book sells it. Like I said, the book sells itself. Yeah, it really does.
Thank you, Judy, for being our guest. It's been wonderful having you here.
Thank you. This is a real treat.
Until our next Authors Forum, have a most inspiring week.
Thank you.